To World Bulletin, well, more to the details. U.S. President Donald Trump leaves G7 summit midway, citing Middle East tensions. U.S. President Donald Trump abruptly left the G7 summit midway, citing escalating tensions in the Middle East as the reason for his early departure. The sudden moves comes amid rising geopolitical concerns in the region. U.S. President Donald Trump claims he doesn't want to see nuclear weapons in Iran. This comes as Israel and Iran continue to exchange lethal missile strikes against each other. The Israeli Air Force first hit Iran last week in what's being called preemptive strikes to prevent Iran from advancing in its development of nuclear weapons. U.S. President Donald Trump said on Air Force One he was looking for something better than a ceasefire in escalating Iran-Israel conflict. Asked by a reporter abroad, Air Force One what specially he hoped to achieve, Trump responded, an end. A real end, not a ceasefire, an end, he said.
An end, a real end, not a ceasefire, an end.
So something that will be permanent.
Yeah. Or giving up entirely. That's okay too.
Are you close there? Is that possible in the next 24
Why not? Certainly possible. Complete give up. That's possible, yeah. Remember, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. We don't have to go too deep into it. They just can't have a nuclear weapon.
You've always said that you don't believe Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon, but how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having it. Great people, they know how to protect themselves.
And when you say better,
we'll come down so hard if they do anything to our people. We'll come down so hard, then the gloves are off so beautifully. Now, I think they know. An end, a real end, not a ceasefire, an end.
So something that will be permanent.
Well, at the G7 summit in Canada, Donald Trump claimed removing Russia from the G8 in the 2014 was a big mistake, saying Putin felt insulted by the expulsion. While Trump stopped short of calling for Russia's return, he also hinted at openness to including China, stirring unease among allies. With Zelensky preparing to meet G7 leaders, Trump's remarks may undercut efforts to rally tougher sanctions on Moscow. Here's what it meant for NATO, Ukraine, and global unity.
The G7 used to be the G8. Barack Obama and a person named Trudeau didn't want to have Russia in. And I would say that was a mistake, because I think you wouldn't have a war right now if you had Russia in. And you wouldn't have a war right now if Trump were president 4 years ago. But it didn't work out that way. But it used to be the G8. And now it's, I guess, what's that, 8 years ago, it switched over. They threw Russia out, which I claimed was a very big mistake. Even though I wasn't in politics then, I was very loud about it. It was a mistake in that you spend so much time talking about Russia, and he's no longer at the table. So it makes life more complicated. But you wouldn't have had the war.
As you mentioned Putin, do you think that he should have a seat at the G7 today, that it should be the G8?
I'm not saying he should at this point, because too much water's gone over the dam, maybe. But it was a big mistake. Obama didn't want him, and the head of your country, the proud head of your country, didn't want him. This was a big mistake. You wouldn't have that war. You know, you have your enemy at the table. Even, I don't even consider him, he wasn't really an enemy at that time. There was no concept. If I were president, this war would have never happened. But likewise, if he were a member of what was called the G8 at that time, it was always the G8, you wouldn't have a war right now.
Why not have China here, the biggest economy in the world after the United States?
Well, it's not a bad idea. I don't mind that. If somebody wants to suggest China coming in, I think we suggest. But you want to have people that you can talk to. You know, they don't talk to. Putin speaks to me. He doesn't speak to anybody else. He doesn't want to talk, because he was very insulted when he got thrown out of the G8. As I would be, as you would be, as anybody would be. He was very insulted. And, I mean, he was thrown out by Trudeau, who convinced one or two people, along with Obama. He was thrown out, and he's not a happy person about it, I can tell you. The G7 used to be the G8. Barack Obama and a person named
French President Emmanuel Macron revealed at the G7 that US President Donald Trump has made an offer to broker a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Macron called it a very good thing and signaled that nuclear talks with Iran could resume if peace holds. Meanwhile, pressure mounts on Russia as the West eyes harsher sanctions, with the US bill proposing 500% tariffs on buyers of Russian energy. Is global diplomacy entering a new phase?
To say that there were ongoing discussions, which is a good thing. And so if the United States of America can achieve a ceasefire, it is a very good thing and France will support it and we wish for it. Then, I say, it is absolutely essential that all strikes from both sides against energy, administrative, and cultural infrastructures, and even more so against the civilian population, cease. Nothing justifies this, and they are absolutely intolerable. And then, as soon as the ceasefire is achieved, and I think the announcements made by President Trump are very positive and the role that the United States of America will have to play is key. The French alongside them, the British and the Germans are available to resume serious discussions. Discussions that we have never, so we are available. Moreover, the JCP, Joint Comprehensive Plan, texts provide for resuming discussions on the nuclear issue as soon as a ceasefire is achieved. In particular, it is provided by the texts that a resolution commission can meet. This is the last step before the famous snapback mechanism is activated. France is a member and we are fully prepared to do so as quickly as possible. Do you interpret his, Donald Trump's, apparent sudden departure from the G7 precisely because of the situation between Israel and Iran? Is there a new American negotiation offer? Does it include, listen, this is what I am saying. Listen, there is an offer that has been made. Indeed, of meetings and exchanges. There is an offer that has been made, especially to have a ceasefire and to initiate broader discussions. And I think this is a very good thing. So now we need to see what the stakeholders will do. I believe that peoples are sovereign. They change their leaders by themselves, and that all those who have tried to change regimes through strikes or military operations in the past have made strategic errors. That's what experience teaches us, and I don't think it's up to foreign powers to change current political regimes.
US President Donald Trump, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron, Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President Antonio Costa attended a working session as Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney officially opens the Group of 7 summit in Kananaskis, Alberta, Canada.
No. Sorry, I'm just waiting for. Welcome to Kananaskis and the 2025 G7 Leaders Summit. I'm pleased all leaders are here, honored by your presence. In my home province, Alberta, in the heart of the Canadian Rockies. Thank you, colleagues. We have some work to do, which will begin in a moment. Just wait for. Welcome to Kananaskis and the 2025 G7 Leaders Summit. I'm pleased all leaders are here, honored by your presence. In my home province, Alberta, in the heart of the Canadian Rockies. Thank you, colleagues. We have some work to do, which will.
Iranian president sent out a strong message to Israel after its airstrikes. He also said the Iranian people and officials will not remain silent in the face of this crime, and the Islamic Republic of Iran's legitimate and powerful response will make the enemy regret its foolish act. As our great Imam said, whenever a flag falls from the hand of one commander, the powerful hand of another commander will pick it up and carry it into the field.
سلام و درود به ملت عزیز و رشید ایران. نیمه شب گذشته شاهد تجاوز وحشیانه رژیم جنایتکار صهیونیستی به تهران و شهرهای دیگر از کشور بودیم که منجر به شهادت تعدادی از کودکان و زنان، جمعی از شهروندان بیگناه، فرماندهان نظامی و دانشمندان هسته‌ای شد. این اقدام سبعانه که برخلاف همه تعهدات بین المللی بود، مؤید خوی جنایتکارانه رژیم نامشروع صهیونیستی است که موجودیت خود را بر پایه اشغال و تجاوز و کودک کشی بنا نهاده است. شب گذشته به همه جهانیان حقانیت ادعای چندین و چند ساله جمهوری اسلامی ایران مبنی بر این که تجاوز و جنایت با ذات رژیم صهیونیستی عجین بوده را اثبات کرد. البته ملت ایران و مسئولان کشور در برابر این جنایت سکوت نخواهند کرد و پاسخ مشروع و قدرتمند جمهوری اسلامی ایران دشمن را از اقدام احمقانه خود پشیمان خواهد کرد. به فرموده امام و بزرگوار ما، هر پرچمی از دست سرداری بیفتد، دست توانای سردار دیگری آن را برداشته و به میدان می آید. جمهوری اسلامی ایران همان اندازه که برای صلح و آرامش در جهان و منطقه همه تلاش خود را به کار بست و آمادگی کامل خود را برای گفتگوهای طولانی و اطمینان آفرینی برای جهان در جهت صلح طلبی اثبات کرد، در پاسخ به تجاوز و دفاع مشروع از تمامیت کشور نیز قاطعانه اقدام خواهد کرد. من در اینجا از ملت شریف و غیور ایران می‌خواهم با حفظ وحدت و یکپارچگی و همدلی خود و پرهیز از توجه به شایعات و اخبار نادرستی که در جنگ روانی دشمن ایجاد خواهد شد و همراهی و اعتماد به مسئولان.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel is obligated to remove the nuclear threat posed by Iran, reaffirming a firm stance amid reports of Tehran returning to negotiations. At a press conference, he also defended Israel's recent actions, including a reported strike on Iran's state TV headquarters, and highlighted the continued hostage crisis in Gaza. Only 20 of 53 hostages are confirmed alive, and the tensions remain high across the region.
I'm not surprised that they want to give up like this, because we are hitting them hard on the ground. Of course they want to stop and continue building the death machines, both the nuclear weapon that threatens our existence and the ballistic missiles. We are obligated to eliminate these two threats. If it's possible to achieve this in another way, but we gave it a chance, 60 days. During that time, while they were working on the American deal, the Ayatollah, the dictator of Iran, was finding ways to destroy Israel. Thank you very much. We are not surprised. I want the result. I want to say that we have also not given up on the release of our hostages in Gaza. I said that we acted, as you remember, we turned to Lebanon. We would deal with Hezbollah, and I said this would help bring about the release of our hostages. And indeed, it brought about the next, so precious and important, release of our loved ones. There were 255 hostages. Until today, we have returned 202, of them, 148 alive and 54 deceased. There are 53 remaining, 20 alive, to whose lives are in serious danger, and 31 deceased. We will bring all of them back. There is potential here. Our operation in Iran essentially removes the main pillar. Not that the main pillar was Hezbollah. The main pillar is Iran. And when we hit Iran, we hit the central support of all.
Israel struck Iran's state-run television station during a live broadcast, forcing a news anchor to run off camera after several attempts to continue reporting amid explosions. Iran's UN ambassador Amir Syed Iravani described the attack as a violent war crime and a direct assault on press freedom during a press briefing. Israeli army spokesperson Brigadier General Efi Defrin claimed forces struck the TV station because it served Iran's armed forces and promoted military activities. Defrin further claimed Israel pre-warned civilians to evacuate the area ahead of the strike. UN Ambassador Iravani said that Iran will respond and exercise its inherent right to self-defense.
خیلی متشکر از اینکه با ما همراه هستید. آنچه که ملاحظه می‌کنید تجاوز رژیم صهیونیستی به خاک جمهوری اسلامی ایران و منطقه صدا و سیما. آنچه که ملاحظه کردید، صدایی که شنیدید، فضای غبارآلود استودیو
دادلو سردبیر گروه دفاعی خبرگزاری صدا و سیما در این چند سال در تمام عملیات‌های وعده صادق جلوه اقتدار ایران و شکست هیمنه رژیم صهیونیستی رو به تصویر کشیدیم. اینجا سازمان صدا و سیماست، مرکز فرماندهی جنگ رسانه ایران و مرکز به قدرت کشیدن تصویر اقتدار ایرانی و ایرانی جماعت و شکست هیمنه رژیم کودک کش صهیونیستی. من نمیدونم چند تا از همکارام داخل بودن. من طبقه اول بودم بمباران شد. نمیدونم چند تا از همکارام شهید شدن. نمیدونم چند نفر مجروح شدن. گفته بودن تخلیه کنیم منطقه سر، اما همه تا آخرین لحظه وایسن تا تصویر اقتدار ایران رو به جهان نشون بدن. چیزی که رژیم صهیونیستی نمیخواد. این ثمره نخواستنش. فکر کرده سازمان صدا و سیما رو بزنه چی میشه؟ بدترش رو میبینید.
לפני מספר שעות תקפנו את מרכז התקשורת של המשטר האיראני ששימש את הכוחות המזוינים של איראן. המרכז שהותקף משמש כרשות השידור האיראנית. על פי המודיעין שבידינו, המרכז שימש את כוחות לקידום פעולות צבאיות בקסות אמצעים ונכסים אזרחיים. פעילות המרכז התבצעה בשליחות והכוונה ישירה של משמרות המהפכה. המהפכה קורא לאורך שנים להשמדת מדינת ישראל ולרצח העם. טרם התקיפה הזהרנו את האוכלוסייה במרחב ופינינו אותה כדי למנוע ככל הניתן את
Thousands of pro-Iranian protesters rallied in Baghdad, setting Israeli flags ablaze and carrying portraits of slain Iranian military commanders as the Israel-Iran conflict marked its fourth consecutive day of reciprocal strikes. The demonstrators chanting slogans and waving portraits of martyrs waved solidarity with Tehran amid escalating region tensions. Iraqi authorities remain vigilant, fearing potential spillover from the intensifying missile exchanges. Observers warn such protests highlight Iran-backed groups' influence and risk drawing Iraq further into a widening regional war. The situation underscores growing instability in the Middle East.
نعم للحسين، نعم للحسين، نعم للخامنئي.
هذه الأقلام الدنيئة المأجورة التي تستحق على الصهيونية، على اليهود، أعداء الإسلام والمسلمين. صواريخ الولي مطرد مطر سجين، اليوم كان الحكم طاغي اول انقطع حيو يا نخلي حيو الدولية المختصة ونحن إن شاء الله تعالى يقين.
Meanwhile, Kenyans take to the streets of the capital Nairobi in an anti-government protest just days after the death of Albert Ojwang, who died while in custody. The case has renewed focus on long-standing allegations of police brutality in the East African nation, and also protesters have called for the resignation of Deputy Inspector General Eliud Kipkoech Lagat, whom Ojwang criticized online.
Arrest and prosecute! Arrest and prosecute! Arrest and prosecute! Arrest and tunataka nini? Tunataka justice! Tunataka nini? Tunataka justice! Tunataka nini? Arrest and prosecute! Arrest and prosecute! Arrest and prosecute! Hatutashindwa! 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 Hatutashindwa!
French President Emmanuel Macron, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen and Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen travelled together Sunday to Nuuk to reaffirm Greenland's sovereignty and democratic integrity. Macron also emphasized Greenland is not to be sold, signalling EU support amid mounting geopolitical interest in the Arctic. Frederiksen echoed strong European backing, urging international respect for Greenlanders and self-determination. Nielsen praised Macron's message as a strong and supportive message, contrasting sharply with US rhetoric. The visit underscores EU efforts to bolster Arctic cooperation on sovereignty, security and resource development as climate change unlocks new strategic access routes.
It's a strange time for us in Greenland. We live on some democratic principle built it up for many, many, many years. Respect for international law, respect for borders, respect for law of the sea, and we are glad you could stand with us to state that those principles are very, very important. Thank you. Strongly want to work more together, and I feel that this could be a very good stepping stone.
A message of support for your territorial integrity, your borders. In a few words, everybody think in France, in the European Union, that Greenland is not to be sold, not to be taken. And when a strategic message is sent to you, I want just for you to know that it's clearly perceived by the Europeans as targeting a European land.
Sirens played across central and northern Israel, including Haifa, early Tuesday as Iran launched another wave of missile attacks on day 5 of escalating hostilities. The Israeli army claims the Air Force is actively intercepting income threats, while no new casualties have been reported from the latest barrage, and tensions remain high after 5 straight days of intense cross-border strikes. Only 224 civilians have been killed in Iraq and 24 in Israel so far as evacuations continue. US President Donald Trump has also urged Tehran residents to evacuate immediately amid fears of further escalation. Early morning waves of Russian drones and missiles struck Kiev's neighborhoods and infrastructure. killing at least 15 people, including 22-year-old US citizen, and injuring more than 100 others. Nearly 9-hour bombardment hit 27 sites, including homes and a 9-story residential building in Solominsky, reducing sections to rubble. Ukrainian rescue teams are scouring debris for survivors. President Zelensky slammed the attack as pure terrorism, urging decisive international actions, and the assault coincided with the G7 summit, underscoring how the conflict remains a central global concern. Well, Maria Claudia Tarazona, wife of conservative presidential hopeful Senator Miguel Uribe Turbay, said her husband is fighting the most difficult battle we have ever faced following his shooting at a campaign rally in Bogota. The 39-year-old senator underwent emergency brain surgery and remains in critical condition after being shot twice in the head by the 15-year-old assailant. Authorities charged the teenager, who allegedly acted for money, and are investigating potential accomplice. Mrs. Tarazona urged Colombians for prayers, calling the ordeal crucial as security concerns resurface ahead of the 2026 election.
Pero hoy, con el corazón en la mano, tengo que decirles que está librando la batalla más difícil que habíamos transitado hasta el día de hoy. Por eso salgo para pedirle a cada uno de
La cámara.
bueno, apenas
Celular, bájalo.
al amor que
Well, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has strongly condemned both Israel's missile attacks on Iran and Iran's subsequent missile strikes against Israel, warning that this cycle of escalation threatens to ignite a devastating regional war. Erdogan also accused Israel of being the main threat to Middle East stability and argued that its aggressive military actions, including the missile barrage on Iran, are dragging the entire region into the fire. He also stressed that the only viable solution to the crisis is renewed negotiations over Iran's nuclear program.
Whatever we have done it despite these imperialist servants, who appear to be from us and shoot their arrows at us, especially in unmanned aerial vehicles. We have become one of the leading countries in the world, in terms of armored land vehicles, almost a global leader brand. We have become our own manned and unmanned aircraft, our own missiles.
Well, those were the latest updates in World Bulletin. Keep watching CVR News English. This is Havila Kottapalli. Have a good day.